The lesson I viewed was fourth grade math, finding area with Miss Lewis. Overall, the lesson received an in progress score of 2. I will first go over the strengths that were observed during the lesson. Then we will review specific feedback along with next steps for Miss Lewis. First, the strengths. The teacher identified a great hands on interactive activity that would engage the students in creating figures on graph paper and using the grid to find the area of those figures. She clearly stated several times that she was going to model the expectation of the activity for the students. She projected her graph paper on the screen to model rolling the die, finding her numbers, drawing her figure, finding her answer, and how to properly label her figure and answer. She then circulated throughout the activity. I engaged students with their drawings, assisted them with completing the task correctly, and asked probing questions on how they were labeling their figures as well as how they were creating their figures on their graph paper. She emphasized the importance in properly labeling the numbers on the figure. Uh, she stated that you must include units on the measure of the length and width, and the answer must be labeled with square units. She announced different time checks throughout the activity, so students were aware of how much time was left. She made an attempt at joy factor in the activity with the blowing of the die. It did not contribute or play a role in the actual task, but it was an opportunity for students to pay closer attention uh, to what was going on during the lesson. When working with one student, she utilized no opt out. The student could not tell her how to properly label his answer, so she called on one of his group members to state how to label the answer. Once the group member gave the correct answer, she asked the first student to state how to label the answer, and he was able to give the correct answer at that time. There was evidence of an attention getting signal. Towards the end of class, when attempting to get the attention of her students, she said, "All eyes tracking me," and some students responded with, "Tracking Miss Lewis." The closing of the lesson challenged students to give another way to find the area of their figures. She instructed students to turn and talk with the partner about their answers. Several students provided the answer of multiplying the length times width. Then Ms. Lewis returned to her original examples to test the method that the majority of the students agreed upon. Next, for specific feedback. Utilize post-it for the directions of the activity. Either the You can project these directions or provide students with a copy and review with the class. The directions lingered unnecessarily long, and a good portion of your class, though quiet, lost engagement early during these directions. The model wasn't as clear as it should have been and resulted in confusion that you had to spot correct once the activity started. Practice the model before modeling. Make sure the points you want to emphasize the most are clearly explained and demonstrated for students. Provide opportunities to engage more. Even during the introduction of the activity, the teacher student talk ratio was heavily teacher favored. By scaffolding the model, you may open more opportunities for students to engage in your presentation of the whole class model. Be aware of your students during whole group discussions. You asked many self report questions that only required a whole group yes or thumbs up or a head nod, resulting in students not truly understanding the directions or the model. There was one point where you asked if everyone could see, and there were some students who clearly said no but weren't acknowledged. So, this is very important to make sure you are aware of your students. Utilize no opt out more. A student gave an incomplete, incorrect definition of unit, and you moved on to another student. Once that student gave a sufficient answer, you moved on with your lesson. This would have been a great opportunity to return to that student and have her restate the correct answer. More than likely, there were other students who needed to hear the correct answer again as well. When circulating and working with students, make sure you utilize be seen looking. You never want to have your back to the majority of the class for any period of time. If working with students, consider using the quarterback so you can still see the class while working with your students. We can go over this during our next co planning session. Make sure the essential question or questions is explicitly stated prior to the activity. You never want to lose the value of the activity and the excitement of the hands on work. Lastly, remember to wait for 100%. If the direction is for all students to track you, wait until you receive 100% before moving on. If the signal requires students to say tracking Miss Lewis, require that every time. So students do not have a choice on whether or not they want to participate. Finally, next steps. State the objective or essential question before beginning the activity. Then revisit the objective or essential question during the closing so the activity can be connected to the mastery of the standard you are moving the students toward. Secondly, include more student talk during your introductory activity. Consider using turn and talk sooner. Show me so students can show if they have the directions correct, or check for understanding and having students restate the directions for the activity. Third, practice the model before modeling. Script what you are going to say. This will make your model very precise with clear expectations for your scholars while they observe you. Fourth, utilize no opt out during whole group discussion. This is a great tool to assist a student who may initially provide the wrong answer, but also for other students who may not know the correct answer as well and benefit from hearing it as many times as possible. And lastly, demand 100%. If students should be tracking, require it. Use your attention getting signal and do not move forward until you have it. You're pretty much there, but 80 or 90% is not 100%. Let's go all the way. Great job, and let's continue working.